Hey guys, I thought I'd pop on and make this video because I have been asked in a couple of my other videos if I have children, and I really don't like to talk about my kids a lot, especially on a channel like this, but my mental health greatly affects my kids, so let's talk a little bit about that journey. I went undiagnosed with bipolar disorder until I was 27 years old. In 2014, I attempted to take my life for the first time. And I went to an inpatient facility, and I was only there for 6 days. And they only treated me for my depression. They didn't treat me for anything else. They didn't do any further testing. They just gave me an antidepressant, sent me on my way. And yeah, that was the first time that I was inpatient and I was away from my kids. I was fresh out of a divorce from my two older kids' dad, and I was dealing with PTSD, undiagnosed PTSD, which later on I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I went into in another video already. But my kids have seen literally my entire world fall apart. And in 2017, the pain and the flashbacks and the nightmares were so bad that I tried to end my life again. Almost 3 years to the day of my last attempt at my first one. So I was put on a 72-hour hold, and I was brought to an inpatient facility again. Only this time I wasn't there just for 6 days. I was there for 18, almost a full month. It was there that I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD and generalized anxiety. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought that being bipolar would be the end of my world. It was not the diagnosis that I wanted, even though I knew it was coming. Based off of what the social workers were saying, based off of what the therapists were saying when I was in there, and what the psych doctors had told me. I had been prone to having suicidal ideations pretty much my entire life. But until my kids were born, I didn't have a reason to want to stay. I thought that, the world would be better off without me. Like, my family would be better off without me. My friends would be better off without me. Until I had my kids. My two older kids have seen so much shit that's happened in my life. And it really, really affects them. Especially when I'm not doing well. When you have a mental health condition like bipolar, it drastically changes your world. I have been in therapy consistently since my last attempt. I have done 8 partial hospitalization programs because I am prone to panic attacks and suicidal ideations and self-harm. I would never deliberately or in any way, shape, or form put my kids in any kind of danger because of my mental health. I have done what I can do to make the best possible decisions for them and do what I feel is right for them. When COVID hit, I thought at that point, because it had been 3 going on 4 years since my initial diagnosis that everything was going to be okay. I thought that I had a handle on it until the panic attacks started happening, until the anxiety attacks started happening. I was at my lowest, and I have been fighting ever since to get back. My kids are constantly living in fear that one day they're going to wake up and mom's not going to be there. They're constantly living in fear that the next time they see me, they're going to be visiting my grave. Because that's how low I can get. Now, within this last year, I was also diagnosed as being borderline personality, having a borderline personality. And when you have borderline personality on top of bipolar, it can really fuck your life up. It can really, really fuck your life up. My kids have seen me not get out of bed for days. They've seen my loved ones having to constantly check in on me to make sure that I'm safe. They've seen me yell a lot. They've seen me completely out of control. I have been reckless with my behaviors. And it doesn't matter really what meds that you're on. You can be stable for a while. You can absolutely be stable for a while. And then all of a sudden you plateau and things just aren't working the way that they used to. There was, at one point, I was on 11 different medications that I was taking daily for my mental health, just so that way I could be somewhat stable. But I ended up getting very sick off of those meds, to the point where I was hospitalized for liver damage. There have been times where I could have been fighting and just wanting to completely give up, but knowing the fact that my kids need their mom is the only thing that saves me 99% of the time. It's my greatest fear that my kids will end up like me. Because my grandmother, my Nana, who passed away in 2015, was bipolar and borderline. And my uncle, wherever he is now, I haven't seen him since 2015, he was also bipolar, undiagnosed, and refused to get treatment for it. And I saw the way that my Nana's mental health affected my family, my parents, and I never wanted that for my kids. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want them to have to be on so many medications just so you can function, even at somewhat of a normal level. I never wanted them. I definitely don't want them to have to suffer the way that I have to. I was doing so good as a single mom. I was doing my best to be everything for them, to be everything that they ever needed, to be everything that they could, to give them anything that they could have ever want. I was working overtime left and right. Granted, at the time I was living with my parents because I was fresh out of a divorce. So I had my parents' help. But I thought I was doing everything that I could to protect them. But there are times when I couldn't shield them from the pain that I was feeling. And those are some of my greatest regrets. Being a parent is hard. Being a parent is the hardest thing that I have ever done. And I have had to make some really hard decisions when it comes to the safety and well-being of my kids. But one thing that they will never know, never have to worry about, is whether or not that their mom loves them and their mom did all they could. I do the best I can with any situation that I'm in when it comes to them. I do the best I can to make sure that they're loved and to make sure that they don't see me in pain. I shield them a lot more now that my 2 older kids are of an age where they understand mental health and they understand what's going on. My youngest is just a toddler. So what she sees is the smiling face, the hugs, the kisses. She doesn't see the anger. She doesn't see any of the things that my 2 older kids had to see. And I'm thankful for the people who are in my life that can protect them when I can't do my job as a mom. There was one day, my son looked at me and he said, "Mom, am I going to be just like you? As sick as you are?" And he's autistic. And for him to notice that breaks my heart. For him to have that fear breaks my heart. Because I don't know if he's going to get diagnosed with bipolar. I don't know if he's going to get diagnosed as a borderline. All I know is that I have to do everything I can to support him. Support any of them. And love them harder if that does happen to be the case. So yeah, my mental health has drastically affected my children. But one thing that will never change is my love for my kids. And I will do anything I can to make sure that they are loved, they are safe, they are protected. Even if it means that they're not with me. No, I'm not delving into that. I'm not delving into that particular part of my personal life, but I will always do what's best for my children. And I've had to make some really hard decisions about that. But one thing that they will never, ever have to worry about is whether or not I'm going to be there. Because for the last 7 years, I've been fighting really hard to be there. To make sure that whenever they see me, they are not coming to a cemetery and visiting my grave. Because no one deserves to lose their mom. Especially not to something like mental health. But yeah, that's how my mental health has affected my children. It's a daily battle for me. But they are the reason why I've survived. They are the reason why I'm still here. And they will continue to be the reason why I keep fighting to make sure that I can still be here for them. Thanks for listening.